Chapter 8. The Mystery Unfolds. Lars was discharged on Sunday, June the 5th. I walked him outside. "Where's my coupe?" he asked. "I don't know," I said, signalling for a taxicab. "I assume Durant still has it." "Haven't you seen or heard from him since—" "No." A cab pulled alongside. I helped Lars get in. Then we rode to his apartment. Lars was very weak. I had to help him climb the stairs and dress for bed. Then he went to sleep. I went out to buy food, bourbon, and cigarettes. Lars didn't have any, and I assumed he'd want one or all when he felt better. Lars was still asleep when I sat down and began looking through newspapers that had been left by Lars's door. I had been so busy with work that I hadn't read the paper in 2 days. I started with yesterday's edition first. This is what I found. Man shot on Dewey Avenue, Santa Monica, June 4th. Gunshots were heard shortly after 10 o'clock p.m. near Dewey Avenue and 23rd Street. Reginald Westgate, a resident of Hollywood, was found shot in the front seat of a Cadillac Series 62 sedan. He was taken to St. John's Hospital and is expected to survive. On the next page, I found this. Man dies in fiery crash in Santa Monica. Santa Monica, June 4th. A loud collision was heard shortly after 10 o'clock p.m. at the intersection of Lincoln and Wilshire Boulevards. Patrons dining inside the Broken Drum restaurant heard the collision and ran outside to see what had happened. They saw a Chevrolet sedan wrecked on the sidewalk. The sedan had struck a light pole. Several bystanders pulled the driver from the vehicle. However, the driver was already dead. Within minutes, the sedan became fully engulfed in flames. The driver was later identified as Frank Keyes from San Francisco, California. Several witnesses told the Santa Monica Police Department that Keyes was traveling at an excessive rate of speed before crossing through the intersection and striking the light pole. I examined that morning's paper next. There was nothing about Lars or Keyes. There was a loud knock on the door. I opened it and found Detective Owen standing there. "They told me Reggie was discharged," he said. "Working on a Sunday, Detective?" "Oh, when I have to." "Reggie's asleep." "That's okay. You and I can talk." Owens came in and sat on the settee. "A drink, Detective?" I asked, searching for the bottle I had just bought. "Oh, this early? No thanks." I sat across from Owens. He lighted a cigarette and noticed the newspapers on the table. Not much in there about what happened the other night," he said, setting his match down in an ashtray. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. "Tell me again, Mr. Harding, how did Reggie get shot?" "It was like I told you Friday night, Detective. Keyes pulled up, got out of his car, approached Reggie, and fired." And nothing was said." "Keyes said something, but I was too far away to hear what it was exactly." "So, how many times did Keyes shoot Reggie?" "Twice." "Where were you when Reggie was shot?" "Hiding near a warehouse with Robert Durant. Then we ran out to try and help Reggie. Keyes turned and began firing at us. He kept firing as he ran back to his car and drove away." "So what was Reggie doing for Criswell?" "Reggie didn't discuss the case with me." "Look, we're just chatting here, Mr. Harding. I'm not asking you to incriminate anyone." "I know only what I told you the other night." "Your cousin should have known better than to get involved with a lowlife like Parley Criswell. Criswell makes old Mayor Frank Shaw look like a choir boy." "The only thing I know about Criswell is that he works for the city council." "How much was he being pinched for?" What do you mean?"
"Obviously, Criswell was being blackmailed. Why else would he hire a gumshoe to pretend to be him and hand over an envelope filled with money in a dimly lit parking lot?"
"Like I said before, Detective, I know nothing about the case. I only arrived 3 days ago."
"From where?"
"New York. I'm returning next week. Then I sail back to England."
"You travelled all this way just to visit an old cousin?"
"I'm here on business. I knew Reggie lived in Los Angeles. I looked him up."
"Reggie said that Criswell was paying him $1,000 to take care of a personal matter. That's big money in this town."
"Is it?"
"Reggie thought something didn't feel right about the setup. He sensed there might be danger and asked you to be his backup.
Reggie never asked me to be there. I insisted on going.
Tell me, Mr. Harding, are you a tough guy?
No.
I just came from the Roosevelt Hotel. They told me that you're Sir Lawrence Harding, one of the richest and most powerful men in England.
I would never make such a claim.
Oh, you should check your mailbox. You have telegrams arriving hourly, and they're starting to pile up.
Thank you for telling me. I'll inquire about them when I return to the hotel later today.
Why was Durant with you on Friday night?
Reggie already told you. He works for Yellow Cab. Reggie had asked him to drive me.
Don't you know how to drive?
I rarely drive these days. I have a chauffeur, and you Yanks drive on the wrong side of the road.
No, either you or Durant was packing heat that night. 10 to 12 shots were fired. Keyes had an empty Colt 45 on the seat next to him. His magazine only held 6 bullets, maybe 1 in the breech. That would be 7 shots at the most.
Maybe he had a second magazine and reloaded.
No, we'd have found an empty magazine on the ground or in his pocket.
I heard many shots. Truthfully, I wasn't counting. Owens squashed his cigarette in the ashtray and stood.
Are you leaving, Detective? For now. Tell Reggie I came by. Ask him to call me when he feels better.
I showed Owens out and then went to check on Lars. He was sitting up in bed.
I'm very weak, Loris,
he said. You lost a lot of blood.
How many times have I been shot now?
I know of 2. Supposedly you were shot multiple times in 1916 as well.
A nurse is coming by to change my bandages. What time is it?
2 o'clock.
Oh, I should get dressed.
You have nowhere to go. I suggest you just stay in bed.
I heard Owens out there. What did he want?
He wants to know what you were doing for Criswell.
As of now, I don't even know what I was doing for Criswell.
He asked if Robbie or I were armed. He knows 2 guns were used.
I was afraid of that.
Yesterday's newspaper mentions your adventure. It says you were shot while sitting in a Cadillac on Dewey Avenue. There's no mention of Criswell. There's another item on the next page about Keyes. It says he smashed into a light pole and was pulled out of the car just before it started to burn. He was already dead. They don't mention that he was shot. They made it sound like he died in the crash. Lars's telephone began ringing. Do you want to answer that? I asked.
I probably should.
The cord was long enough, so I brought the telephone to Lars.
Hello?
I heard a high-pitched squeal on the line. I knew it was Criswell.
Yes, I can talk.
Criswell chirped away.
Do you have my address? When could I expect you?
Lars hung up and handed me the telephone.
Criswell's on his way.
Should I leave?
No, just stay in my bedroom.
Lars got up and dressed. Then he washed his face and combed his hair. There was a loud knock on the door. Lars went to answer it, while I stood in his room by the door and listened.